Hey, everybody. I'm Lindsay,
And I'm Allie.
and we are the bad girls of branding. this, this is our podcast, Brandsplaining, a show about the most overlooked strategy in the game, fun. How bad are we, Allie?
So bad. I just want to refer to myself everywhere as a bad girl of branding. I want like a leather bomber jacket.
Oh my gosh. On the
Yeah.
back of our jackets, it is a really good litmus test for if people understand our sense of humor and that we would never sincerely call ourselves the bad girls of branding. We should probably trademark that before someone snatches it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
To cut it from this episode, so not to give anyone any ideas.
Got it for the branding. Uh,
Well, that was a real treat talking to Mike, which we'll talk
yes.
all about him in a minute, but it was so fun. That was the first time we got to speak with one of our clients.
Yeah, like a true interview. We could really grill them on what their favorite parts about working with us are.
Yeah. This was just a pure ego stroke. We actually had a gun to his back, forcing answers.
Yeah. I feel like we make a lot of jokes about us using intimidation tactics and hazing, which we should really reflect on that. What are we trying to,
But
what's happening here?
we're the bullies of branding. The bad
I
bullies
guess
of branding.
I guess that is a bad girl thing. I was so not a bad girl ever in my life that I don't even know like what it reminds me of the Full House episode when Stephanie Tanner almost smokes a cigarette with Gina in the bathroom.
Oh
What's
my
her
god,
name?
I remember
Gina?
that. Sounds like a Gina would
And she was
entice her to
like,
smoke.
just do it, Tanner. I feel like she would have called her by her last name.
Anna.
I was like, don't do it.
When I think
Don't
of
do it.
Stephanie Tanner, I think of the episode where she did a dance routine to Motown Philly.
Well, of
Because I've
course.
never in my childhood been more jealous in
Oh,
my life. I was like, I wish I was Stephanie Tanner, that I knew the Motown Philly dance routine. I
yes.
practiced it for days in my bedroom.
Also, that is the same because it was like a fundraiser, and DJ Tanner does a cool song pushing Michelle in a cart, and I was like, "That's cool too." Bad girls. I like that. My bad girls reference are the Tanner sisters.
Yeah, not too bad.
The baddest girl in that group was when Michelle's twin or her cousin from Italy with the dark hair
Oh my
came,
god, I
and we
remember
got to
that.
see Mary Kate and Ashley on screen together for the first time. I screamed.
Never gotten over it.
I've been chasing that high my whole life.
It's funny the trope of the good girl blonde and the bad
Oh,
girl
yeah.
brunette. It's like
Yes.
us, Lynn. I guess I am more the bad cop than you when it comes to
Not cop, though. You're more the bad girl than I. You know what I mean? Because, like,
yeah,
I'm
I
probably the
guess.
bad cop. I don't
Yeah.
know. We can never decide who's the bad cop, which probably means we're both not.
Yeah, if we
No,
can't
you are.
no, you're the bad cop. No, I wanna be the bad cop. Okay, so our guest today is Mike OHagan. He's the Chief Strategy Officer at JOI. And JOI stands for just one ingredient, which is very cute. It's a plant-based that you add water to make plant milk. So they have almond and cashew currently in their portfolio, but they're launching some new products this year. And the cool thing is you can actually use their plant nut base for more than just milk. Like you can use it in smoothies and in pasta sauces and
And salad dressings and soups.
yeah, so it's very versatile. We actually I mean we did work with them, but we buy Joy because it's
Mm-hmm.
an awesome product. And it's really cool because it was the first of its kind in its category.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really a fun piece of working together, is figuring out how to launch a new product into the ether.
Yeah. Yeah. So we worked with Joy launching their very first site as Joy. They had rebranded. And that was in 2019, and really helping them develop that brand personality and guiding their humor voice and helping them figure out what shades and tones and tactics to use to, get new customers for customer retention and all of that stuff. And I feel like I just want to brag on Joy for a few other things that
Mhm.
make it so cool. So like the tub that it comes in is 100% recyclable. Every tub of Joy saves 7 milk cartons from a landfill.
Mhm.
And one of the lines we wrote about this was mouthfuls, not landfills.
Mhm.
And I think we said a
Mhm.
mindful mouthful,
Yeah.
which is great. And it
Toot
has a
toot.
shelf.
Toot toot our own horn.
You'll hear in this interview that we press Mike for some of his favorite lines that we helped them come up with and devices.
Poor guy.
Um, And a tub of Joy has a shelf life of up to 18 months. And so basically, it's like it's an easier way to make nut milk and plant-based milks at home and other recipes. And it is more nutrient dense. So it has, it's the only just one ingredient made with almonds. And one serving has, what are the stats on that? 8 grams of healthy fats, 3 grams of protein, and 2 grams of fiber. No added sugar preservatives. It's vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, keto, paleo, and Whole30 approved. And this episode is sponsored by Joy.
Yeah.
I just think it's an incredible product. They're an incredible brand. And, getting to talk to Mike more about those marketing and branding choices was really fun.
And I feel like, every client we work with, we try to have a ton of integrity in terms of who we take on as clients. And I will say that we were over the moon about this product and the quality of it. And they have such high integrity in terms of from tip to tail, in terms of their people, their packaging, their process, their product. And they've expanded so much. I mean, they're now carried at Amazon and recently just launched onto Thrive Market. They've been featured in Bon Appetit, et cetera. So yeah, they're really making waves in their industry.
Yeah. So Mike has a ton of background, like 16 years of marketing and advertising experience. He used to sort of be in the publishing industry and editorial, and then now has worked with Joy since about spring of 2019, leading their strategy and marketing initiatives. And so we got to, chat with him about how they approach, this health industry and very health conscious consumers, and how they bring levity and play into that when it is sort of a serious topic and people are, they want to know, like you said, they want to know the integrity and the authenticity, but they also want to have a relationship. And so we talked about how play and fun helps strengthen those relationships and the customer loyalty. So I liked that.
Yeah, I thought another nice piece too is that especially in the health and wellness world, it's often can be riddled with just shaming tactics, or a lot of pressure to do things a certain way. And like there's a certain standard of what health is and what healthy choices look like. And so it was so fun to work with them, because it was how do we educate people on this healthy product without making them feel bad or feel about their other choices or feel embarrassed or feel shamed. And so how we were able to use just like levity to make health not a negative, like to make it something that was inspiring and aspirational and energizing and exciting and felt good and didn't feel like it was layered with a lot of pressure. And so, yeah, it was a big shift for them.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like comedy and education go hand in hand. When you have to communicate a lofty concept or a new concept to people, using comedy and humor is such a good way to distill it down and make it sort of something that people can understand. I think instead of saying the almond milks you're buying in store are full of chemicals and are basically like made with no almonds, like how do you give that message in a way that is inviting and welcoming and just says like, we have a better way and we want to introduce you to it. And we want you to have a good time with it. And like, obviously their name is Joy. They're very joyful. And yeah, I think you guys are going to learn a lot and hear a lot of interesting things that they're doing. And I know they're launching new products this year. So yeah, I think this is going to be something you guys will really enjoy.
Yeah. And Mike is he's such a sweet, nice, chill dude. So he's got such a good energy. So yeah, enjoy the episode.
And now, for all the women in the business of being women in business. For girl bossy bosses and boss girly girls. For CEOs, mogals, and branding babes ready to make herstory. Please put your lady hands together and welcome to the stage, Brandsplaining.
Are you both in closets?
We are.
That's the trick, right? For recording?
It is. I mean, because we have our other ridiculous podcast, and the audio quality has been so spotty in terms of, sometimes when we're not in a closet, it sounds fine. Sometimes it sounds chaotic. So this is, your best bet. So look how professional we look with just our clothes hanging draped around us.
I feel like it's very obedient,
Yeah.
We're like, bet you didn't think we'd be in a closet.
Yeah, exactly.
Turning things on their head, still professional.
Well, my thought was like, oh, of course they're in their closet. Like,
of course. This is where we work all the time. There's no actual benefit to the audio sound.
Yeah.
It's just to throw people off their game.
So before we get into talking more about joy and the specifics around branding that we're super excited to chat about, we always start the pod with this question to really kick things off. And we ask everyone this. So, Mike, how do you pronounce the word Pizzazz?
It's clearly pizzazz.
Clearly. How could you think something else?
Just a bit of light hazing to start things
Yeah.
off. We loved that story.
Yeah,
by the
care
way.
to elaborate, Mike?
Some people, there's a core group of very smart individuals that might call it pizzazz. But I
Oh, so you did the zizza.
yeah,
You did pizzaza. Oh,
Pizzaza.
that's great.
I have a long history of mispronouncing words. I could have given you countless examples. But when I was like 17 or 18, my friend and I went to Los Angeles and we came across Jamba Juice for the first time in our life and we were blown away. And they had a drink called the Raspberry Pizzazz. And I said to my friend, I'm going to order the Raspberry Pizzazz. And he was like, oh yeah, you should totally do that. And he let me go through line, and I went up and I said, I'd like to have the Raspberry Pizzazz. And the girl just looked at me, and my friend just started laughing, and I knew right then and there, like that was it. And really embarrassing, but we laugh about it now. But it's not the only word that I've mispronounced in my life.
Now, Mike, did you think it was pizza flavor? Did you think that there was actually like a piece of pizza that came with it, or where did the pizza come into play?
I don't know. I think it was like I hadn't traveled much at that time, and I grew up in Queens, New York, and just like I don't know, maybe it was just my association with like pizza and New York and my limited scope of the world. And this was the late '90s, like the internet was just starting to get it around, so I didn't really know much. But I blame my youth on that one. And
everything comes with pizza.
Yeah.
Guys, this reminds me of, I was in line behind someone at Noodles & Co. years and years ago, and she was ordering something, and it took me a second to understand what she was saying. She was telling the person taking her order, no shatakes. And the person was like, pardon me? And she was like, yeah, I want the blah, blah, but I just don't want any shatakes. And like, it took that person, I wanted to be like, she's saying shiitake mushroom. And so then the person eventually, I saw them catch on, and she was just like, all right, no shiitakes on that. Like, she like was so kind to her and didn't correct her.
That woman seems like she's my soulmate.
Mike, you also might be a soulmate with my husband, because on one of our first dates, we went to this like healthy restaurant and he ordered quinoa instead of quinoa, and it was so cute. I was like,
that's cute.
He's
great.
I'll marry him.
I'll marry him. I'm in love.
Okay, so we have another icebreaker question. This is not going to embarrass you, I don't think, but it's tricky. It's a would you rather. And the would you rather is, would you rather perform a TikTok dance for everybody you work with, or get a tattoo of an almond milk mustache?
Would the tattoo be right here on my lip?
Oh,
yeah, like a milk mustache, but it'd be sort of like off-white.
Yeah, that's really hard. I don't want to do either of those things. I would have to go with the TikTok dance. As much as I love tattoos, I don't want one on my lip.
Face tattoos where you draw the line.
Yeah.
How committed are you to the Joy brand, Mike? This is the
that's the
benchmark,
test, right? Yeah. There's what is it in the Bay Area? There's a salsa company, Casa Sanchez, and they have their logos like a little guy like sitting on like a corn on the cob, and it's kind of like a rocket. And I think there's like this. I don't know how true it is, but the rumor is if you get that tattoo and you show it, you get free salsa for life or something like that.
Oh wow!
I think Joy needs to do that with almond milk mustaches, because there will be maybe one person ever that does it.
That'd be a great story, though.
Send us a picture of your almond milk tattoo. Yeah, your mustache tattoo.
That's true.
Well, Mike, it's so funny. The last guest we interviewed is from Aviation Gin, and he has the Aviation Gin logo tattooed on his arm. So, if you want to show you're really committed to joy, that's what you got to do.
And then there's you.
Good point.
All right. Well, let's get into the actual cues. When you joined the Joy team in the spring of 2019, the brand was undergoing a rebrand, and from what we understood, and it was moving from not a milk company to Joy. What was the impetus there?
Yeah. So the company officially launched in late 2018 to food service as not a milk company.
Hmm.
Um, so we're headquartered in Miami, and we launched there, and mostly working with mom and pop cafes
Hmm.
and smoothie shops and places like that. So we were under Not a Milk, and what we learned pretty fast, like once we got the product into professionals' hands,
Hmm.
was that we could go way beyond milk. That people were using it for vegan baking, for
Yeah.
soups and sauces and salad dressings, and we kind of saw that as like a huge opportunity that we don't need to limit ourselves to this milk area, and the name itself, not a milk co, kind of pigeonholes us a bit. So
Hmm.
that was one big thing. The other thing was, as we started to think about the brand, and what we wanted to be from a tone and just a perspective, not was just negative, right? Like we didn't really
Hmm.
want to have that negative connotation. So those were the two main reasons that we started to think about a rebrand, and we kind of propelled into. We'd always planned to go direct to consumer, and it happened a little bit quicker than we thought, which was in the spring of 2019. So we wanted to kind of launch that with a new brand and kind of a new voice.
Very
And
cool.
I feel like you guys told us this story when we met up at Soho House when we were talking about working together about, the milk these nuts
Hmm.
slogan you sort of used to have.
Yeah,
And I think you had it on t-shirts. Do you feel like that was one of the first discovery points for you guys as a brand of the power of humor? Or can you talk a little bit about that experience and that slogan
yeah,
and what that taught you?
yeah. I would say yes, for sure. So milk these nuts. That Izzy Shu, actually one of our co-founders, she
Hmm.
came up with that. I think she was just kind of playing around with design on our label and on our pails for food service, and I think she just kind of dropped that in. It might have been in the background, but she really liked how it looked. Um, what really happened and catapulted that as like our kind of mantra in a
Hmm.
way was in late 2018, like November or so. The team had participated in Seed Food and Wine, which is like a plant-based vegan
Hmm.
festival down in Miami, and they had a table and they were just making milk and serving it, and they all had these black t-shirts with huge white letters, I mean like chest to belly, just milk these nuts like
Hmm.
in big, and the reaction was just overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
People loved it. Actually, women loved it more than men. Like men were like, "Hey, you guys should like maybe like not do that." Um, but yeah, but overall the reaction was really great, and that was a really good event for us to kind of get our brand out there a little bit more at the time, and we got a lot of like interest in email and more followers on Instagram and all that. But yeah, I think that kind of opened our eyes to like, oh, we can be really playful with this.
Hmm.
And as we started to think about the new brand, Izzy actually came across you, Obedient,
Hmm.
separately, and had flagged it to me. Like she sent me your website and I think maybe your Instagram, and she's like, I think we should look in this direction. And then separately, I think Tony got introduced to you, and that's when we met in Chicago. So it's kind of like the stars were aligning for us to work together.
So random, I know.
Mike, something you said earlier, I really liked about like the not word in your old company name and this idea of not wanting to be negative. And I feel like this sort of like wellness and health food, stuff can sort of go in a shamey or fear-based direction when you're trying to encourage people to, adopt healthier lifestyles or do these things and not do these things. Do you feel like humor has helped you guys avoid that sort of tone? The like, you better drink better, almond milk for you. Like it feels like you can go at it at a more playful way than maybe some of your competitors.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, just in the name of our brand, Joy, like we have
Mhm.
to kind of embrace that. I think
Hmm.
it would be a disservice to our brand and to our customers' own expectations. Like if we were this kind of shame mongering like group, and
Hmm.
so just starting from the brand name and down, and I think mentioning playful, like that's really embedded. And I think we went through that exercise with you when we were thinking about the attributes of our brand and our voice, and I think that's the one that we probably dive into the most, is
Hmm.
being playful with our customers, because there's just a lot of opportunity to do that, and the playfulness allows us to connect with them in a more meaningful way,
Mhm.
Hmm.
um, and that's where we
Yeah.
kind of find ourselves having the most fun.
Yeah.
It even feels like I remember this line that we sort of suggested the like, you've never had almond milk before. You remember
Hmm.
that? And that even changing that to taste almond milk for the first time, or now I think you guys say taste plant milk for the first
Yep.
time. I loved that like discovery when we were working together of being like, okay, this feels like actually the right differentiation point of like the first time, the first almond milk made with almonds, or the first, one ingredient thing, but then changing it from you've never done this to try doing this for the first
Mhm.
time feels like a good example of that negative to positive, but both playful, but just nuanced.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then I think the add-on, which was the playfulness, is like no, really the actual first time, or that was like the second part of it,
Yep.
which kind of like
Hmm.
lended that little nuance into it that we've seen success. I mean, I think we use that still to this day, but that was
Hmm.
plastered the first thing you saw on the new website when we
Yeah.
launched it back in April 2019. That was like front and center, like taste almond milk for the first time. We used it in tons of social media, tons of paid advertising across social platforms, and even on display. It's really stayed. There's another one I think we worked with you that was stop drinking nut flavored water and start drinking real almond milk, which we got good reactions to, even though that does kind of start with a negative, but we get it into this kind of positive, fun, playful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It gets to the same sentiment, but just a bit of a flip. And
Yep.
I think it's more approachable and a little bit more welcoming in terms of how to phrase it. So yeah, it was always so great to see you guys use it. So because Joy was really opening up a whole new category in terms of being a nut base, which was new to the market, what do you think were some of the biggest branding and marketing challenges when it came to getting people to understand your product?
Yeah, great question. Education was number one. We had decided to enter kind of going after the non-dairy milk space, and our product isn't a milk, right? Like it's not a milk when you buy it. You do have to blend it with water and to get that end product. So there was definitely a little bit of education there for customers who we might be going after that we're so used to just going to their Whole Foods and grabbing that carton off the shelf.
Mhm.
And then to the probably smaller group of DIY people who are making it at home and sitting over a bowl with like a nut bag and squeezing it and getting all that all the milk
Well,
out. So there's two different approaches or two challenges because um, the home milk maker knows how to do it, and we're trying to show them like, hey, we can make your life easier. The store buyer is just this is like a completely new concept.
mhm.
So there was just a lot of education, and that's where we spent a good portion of last year on 2019 was really all about new customer acquisition. We were so new, and it was very much in that education phase. And we knew that we had there was a time period like we couldn't. A lot of times we weren't just getting someone right away. It took a little bit of time, and we had to nurture that. And this year, that's still part of it. We're always going after new customers, but now we get to really have fun with retention and kind of nurturing that community that we built and through our subscription and just repeat buyers. And that's where we let our playfulness come out a little bit more, which is challenging in and of itself. But yeah, education is at the core of what we're trying to do every day.
Well, I think the beauty of being playful and using levity and humor and fun and all of that is that especially when you're trying to educate an audience and teach them a new product for the first time, is it makes it very approachable. You're able to take something that's more complicated or complex and distill it down into like really bite-sized, memorable, digestible like instruction or explanations. And I even remember that you had copy on, I think it ended up on your website and packaging that said as easy as ABE.
Hmm.
So add, blend, and enjoy. And that was just, it was just a fun, memorable way to teach people a process on how to use your product and expound a little bit more about what it was about. And because you guys really went beyond nut milk and moved into so many other opportunities to use your product. So I think there's been such a learning curve, but once you get it, you're like you recognize the value of it.
Yeah, for sure. Did you guys come up with ABE, or is that us? I don't remember.
Yeah, we wrote it. That's why we brought it up.
What if this whole thing was just us like reading a Rolodex of our favorite
Yeah.
lines? We're like, one of my favorite things you did. And then it's like, oh, that was us.
That was us. Oh my, just us hyping ourselves the whole time.
Yeah. What we've kind of done is we're always trying to use humor to as you said, like for the new customers, it's like to kind of attention grab and just like be a little bit different and stand out because there's just so much shit like on Instagram every day and
It's
whatever other channel you're on. Um, but what we've been doing, and this is just after kind of learning, right? Getting this stuff launched with you in the spring of last year, and um, talking to customers. That was a huge thing. We spent 20 hours talking one-on-one conversations with customers. In February, we spent another 20 hours or so about a month ago, and just hearing from them and kind of getting a feel of who they are and what they might like.
Mm,
But with our customers that we have for email, for example, or it's a pretty loyal group that we have.
Mhm.
We can do a little bit more, and you can see what's happening, whether it's open rates, clicks, conversions, and all that. And that group, like they're part of our community, so I feel more comfortable kind of going maybe a little bit further than I might with just kind of our
mhm,
standard messaging. And if we see something's working there, then we can layer it into some other different segment that we're going after.
mhm.
So just that's
Yep.
kind of how like we're very segment driven, and we know we have so many different types of customers, and
Yep.
so many different types of personalities that one message may not work for all of them. So we're trying to continually learn what that's going to be, and we can do these little spot checks, whether it's SMS, email, Instagram, but just to kind of micro groups.
So now that you're playing on all of these various platforms, what have been some of your favorite reactions to some of the more playful or fun or levity driven campaigns and assets that you've been sharing?
My favorite reactions.
Yeah, like consumer reactions, like in terms of how people have responded.
Feedback.
Yeah, we try to respond to almost every comment that comes through, which has
Wow.
gotten more difficult over time as we've grown. But I think we do a pretty good job. And yeah, it's just like seeing the responses of how much people love our brand in general, like, and getting those inbound, like it feels great. And we try to respond in playful ways. Like we like to use gifs a lot, which I don't know if that was part of your approved methods. um, but we get playful with gifs and stop motion. Izzy and I really love stop motion, so we try to experiment with that more, and that allows like visually to be playful, and then we can add on just more humor in the writing, because there's less explanation that you have to do when something's kind of visual. So,
Mm.
um, but yeah, I mean, people like having people come and tell us that they love the product is always great. That they love the brand, and the aesthetic is always
Mhm.
great, and that they love our voice. Like, and we hear that pretty often.
Whose idea were the little dinosaurs? I love it. Is
Oh
that still a big part of your visual, or is that
yeah, well, yes. So that's on the website. We actually have stickers on Instagram. I just saw them up today. Um, that was that came from a photographer that we worked with. When we relaunched the website, we had brought on a new photographer to take the imagery, and she's very whimsical. And it was her idea because she works with figures a lot. Um, but
Mm.
the whole setup, we just kind of explained what we wanted, and she put it together, and we're like, yes, that's it.
It's really fun.
It's so delightful. It's so fun and playful. It's great. Um, okay, Mike, this is the part of the episode where we back you into a corner.
I'm terrified.
Because we actually invited you on here. We invited you on here to get justice
I forgot this was a question.
for one of our favorite pieces of copy that ended up on the cutting room floor. We sent you these questions in advance, so it gave you a little bit of time to think about it. So do you remember what it was?
I have two. I have two things. Uh, One, there was the one that Allie was so stoked on that was about Joan of Arc, and it just like went over everyone's head. And that didn't make it. But I don't know if
Yeah,
is that the one we're talking about?
yeah, so the yes, when I knew that when I was presenting it to you guys that it would end up on the cutting room floor, but I
We knew.
we knew it. We knew it, but we couldn't get over how funny, how perfectly your brand fit into this sentence. So it was about Helen of Troy,
Ah,
and the line was, "The nut base that launched 1,000 sips, Helen of Joy." And we thought it was so funny. We're like, we have to give it to
Because
them.
the original is the face that launched 1,000
yeah.
ships, just to like, so
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
listeners can really know
Yeah.
the genius lineup of
Yeah.
that. We knew it wasn't the right tone for you guys, and we knew, but I was like, it was one of those lines that I was like, I cannot kill the starling. We
No.
have to try.
Yeah. I think I remember I might have been in Miami with the team,
You were.
and I'm pretty sure Izzy and I were like sitting next to each other reading that, And I don't think either of us wanted to admit we had no idea what it meant.
You're like, wow, they're history buffs.
Yeah. We were just kinda like, do you get it? Yeah, I kind of, yeah, I ought to get it. I don't get it."
If you love Greek mythology, you're gonna love joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be an audience segment out there that is vegan and likes plant-based milks and loves
Yeah.
Greek mythology.
I thought it was Joan of Arc. I didn't realize it was Helen of Troy. Because I purposely didn't go back to the Wikipedia about it. Like, I was
Oh,
really trying to rack my brain on it.
I mean,
you're like, what was Allie the most upset about? I remember some emotion around.
you knew my reaction was stark.
The hype was so strong. Like, I think she, like, texted me, like, "Oh, we did it. Like, you're gonna love, like, you paid us for 10, like, we're giving you an 11th, and it's gonna blow your mind, man." And there was
It's like, what's the opposite of a mic drop? That's what that was.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
setting.
I
She's
set
like,
the bar so high, and it was just crickets on the other line.
Mhm.
I was like, wow, this did not land like I hoped.
Yeah. But I think we were probably like, "Oh, yeah, like, maybe we'll, like, keep that in our back pocket for someday."
You guys are so polite.
I know.
um, oh, I know. There's an anecdote that I know happened. I feel like earlier this year when someone on Twitter posted an image of the Joy packaging.
Oh, yes.
You remember this? And it was the line,
Thanks for nothing.
"Thanks for nothing." And the comedian, he's a Chicago guy that Allie and I actually know loosely, but I don't think he knew we were connected with the project. And he made a joke about like when the copywriter just sends it
Yeah.
through, like as though like someone hadn't approved it. But then I feel like a lot of people, I don't know, I think that's just an interesting thing about humor and being willing to take risks and knowing that, like you mentioned, with certain audience segments, some stuff is going to land with, like, as long as it lands with the right people. And I don't know, it's just an interesting experience to watch something we helped create, like see that response in real life. But yeah, I don't even know if I have a question as much as I thought it was funny that they liked it enough to make a joke about it.
Yeah.
I feel like
I That was one of those things, like, we don't really do anything on Twitter. We
Yeah.
have a handle, but we don't really do much there. But I pay attention to it, and whatever social platform management tool we were using, you could see where conversations are happening about the brand, and you have all these filters. And I was in there, and it's just like you just see like Twitter was like lit up, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And then it's like there's like because that thing had like quite a bit of comments on it,
It had a lot of commentary, yeah.
like
yeah.
100 or something. And I was like, "Why are people talking about us on Twitter?" And that's how I found it. Was because and all the comments were like pretty. There was nothing that was like so negative. It was all just kind of like fun, humorous, and it gave us like we actually commented to a lot of them, and we were able to kind of like just jump in there in like a pretty fun and playful way. Like, yeah, we get it. Like, jokes on us. We don't really care. Like, glad you guys did too. Um, and then I had a really good sidebar with I can't remember his name right now. I should look it up.
His name is Asher, I
Yeah.
think.
So I
Mhm.
contacted him separately and just said like, "Hey, like, thanks for your support." Because he obviously bought the product. And he's like, "Oh,
Oh,
my
yeah,
wife loves it. We love it here. It's so great." Um,
yeah.
he's like, "I just couldn't not post that because that's on our box. So when you open up our box, it says thanks for nothing. Like that's the message that
Yeah.
you get."
I just think to me, when they're Allie and I often say that the worst thing that you can leave your consumers feeling is nothing at all. And so to even stir up an emotional response in somebody about a product that might not otherwise make you want to share it, I think to me is success.
Mhm.
Like to have a conversation going, especially about a newer product.
And Mike, I think you did such a good job, if I remember, leaning into that dialogue. And you, if I remember correctly, you made a comment that said you should see the ones that were on the cutting room floor. Like
Oh yeah.
I think it's like you played into the joke, which is I think such a perfect response and reaction, because then everyone else was on board and the response was really supportive and people were laughing and playing around and yeah, I think there's ways that you could have pulled back from that conversation, but you leaned into it, and I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that was important. And his response was like, "Please send it to me." And I was like, "I can't send
Yeah.
him a Helen of Troy tagline. That wasn't
How? So you're saying you had an opportunity to use that line and you didn't?
That was actually that was the
Injustice.
perfect moment.
That would have been Mike, you can send them this
Yeah,
episode. Go back now go back in your Twitter and send them. Be like, well, if you want to hear the cutting room floor,
yeah,
we got something for you.
I'm going to send him Helen of Joy. Like months later, out of
yeah.
context. He's going to be like, hello?
But then, that whole thing too, when I shared it with you, you guys got involved and it was really fun. Like, it was just like you said, it's an
Yeah,
opportunity to like not be quiet, to lean into it and have fun with it. And that was good.
absolutely.
Right. Because it's not like it was accidental and we're like, it's just funny to me when sometimes people are like, did they know what they were doing? And you're like, of course we
Mhm.
did. Like, we were just like, oops, I guess that. I mean, sometimes that, like, do you remember that everyone made, I think it was in Canada, there was a campaign about getting more vitamin D. And it was like, we all need the D. Like,
Oh, yes.
that was
Yes.
clearly an accidental use of humor. But this was, same with, it reminds me of the meth campaign that was like, meth, we're on it.
Mhm.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
And everyone was like, and someone said that in that Twitter
we
thread. They were
did.
like,
Yeah.
this is just like that. And I was like, thank
Yeah.
you. Because to me, that was very clever. Anyway, I think intentional and then playing along with the joke is the perfect response.
Yeah.
Back to the earlier question of how do we react or the reacting to customers.
Yeah.
You were saying that people respond to things for nothing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so not even just thanks from them, but some copy like around that's like a little bit innuendo or just playful, or if they see a visual of ours
Mhm.
that um, is like our base, which is super creamy, and then like next to milk, it's like, oh, this company like how did their marketing team not know this or that or whatever? It's like, no, we knew, like we know what we're doing. It's all purposeful and all with intent.
And I think it's great. I mean, like you have such a nice relationship with your customers, and I think that's the beauty of strong messaging, opening up a dialogue, is you can have those conversations,
Yeah,
and I think that's a beautiful way to continue to build a relationship and customer loyalty. And they know that you're invested in the brand, you're invested in them, you hear them, you're listening, and then you're going to do what works best for Joy. But I think it's awesome that you can have a conversation around topics like that.
yeah. There's been so many times where I'll go look at Facebook's like the worst abuser of just trolls
Oh
compared to
boy.
other platforms. But I'll look at Facebook comments and maybe it's on an ad, or it's usually like on an ad because if they're not following us, they're not going to see us. But it'll be, we have tons of videos and other assets that we're using and be like, this looks gross. Like just that, right? And the go-to response is just, hey, tell us how you really think, like winky face emoji. And
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, the response would be, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to be mean. Like, I was having a day." Like, so it's like
Yeah.
right there, and like, who knows if they're ever gonna be a customer, but just like acknowledging that their comment was actually fairly useless in some ways, but we're kind
Yeah.
of having fun with it, has always been pretty helpful.
Yeah. Which I think makes me like reminds me of the importance of having your brand have a personality and be humanizing. Because I think a lot of times people respond like that when they don't imagine that there's anybody
Yeah,
behind it,
Mhm.
And then the minute that someone says like either jokes back with them or is not unkind back, most people, even if they like started out troll like, are gonna go, "Oh, sorry, I don't know what I was doing," or like, you know what I mean? And so I think that humanizing element of a brand personality and like fun is key for that.
Mhm.
definitely.
Okay, Mike, so you mentioned Joy has some new exciting products in development. Can you tease anything out or share anything in terms of like where you guys are headed?
Um, I think we'd have to muzzle you and lock you in the room if we did.
All right.
Since beginning, we've had big aspirations as a company and as a brand, and we have some new products currently in development that we're really excited about. But ultimately, I mean, I can't talk much about the product themselves, but it just aligns with our mission as a company, which is you know kind of creating a really high integrity product and brand that customers trust and that they want,
Mm.
um, and taking advantage of whole foods and kind of simple ingredients.
Mhm.
So that's kind of like where we're always heading, but we're taking it in kind
Mm.
of a newer place and newer direction than where we've been even just a year ago. So I think one of the things with us in particular is like we're not like ingredient agnostic, right? Like we're not
Mhm.
tied down to a single type of product or ingredient. I mean, currently we have
Mm.
two offerings, almond and cashew, both in conventional and organic. But that's not the end all be all, right? So everything's on the table with us. We just want to be able to help people make the best plant milk at home, and through conversations with them. Like I said, we spent hours and hours talking to real customers. We kind of know what they want next, and that's what we're going to deliver. So it's really driven by what our customer wants, not just us thinking like, I think someone wants this, right? And we're trying to figure that out with them, and hopefully we get these out this year, and people love them.
Oh, good. This year. Well, we're
Right.
looking forward to that. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, we are purchasers of Joy outside of working together,
All right.
so we're excited
Big
to see
fans.
what's coming on down the pipipeline. So, well, Mike, you've successfully answered all of our questions. So now we move on to the game portion
Oh yeah.
of this episode.
You didn't even tell me about this portion. I'm excited
Well,
now.
I know we like to just surprise.
But I'm still nervous. I've been nervous this whole time.
Oh my God. No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, I'll tee it up. It is a game called Guess Who Brand Mascot. So it's like the game Guess Who. We're gonna give you a clue on. Usually these are sort of like iconic brand mascots. Some of them are still around. I feel like the brand mascots are sort of like a lost art. I feel like Joy should consider having a mascot. And so we're gonna give you clues about who they are, and if you can't guess after the first clue, you're allowed to ask 3 yes or no questions. You know, do they represent a cereal? Are they an animal? That kind of thing. So we're going to do 2 different ones. I'll do the first one.
Well, I think there's a good chance that you'll guess these, Mike.
Here's the clue.
Okay.
Okay. This brand mascot, who first appeared in 1982, is a live, fluffy white animal who was famous for clucking like a hen in the commercials.
That's the Cadbury Easter Bunny.
Woo!
Yes. Good job. See?
Nice.
All right. Now he's getting cocky. Okay.
we did stump someone the other day on the do you remember those singing Quiznos sort of rats for Quiznos sandwiches? I don't know if they have Quiznos everywhere.
Oh, I don't remember those.
You don't remember those?
Singing rats?
They looked like rats.
They were called spong monkeys, and they were this weird amalgamation of like a hamster, rat, monkey-ish, and they had big mouths, and they sang. They used to sing, "We love these subs, they are so tasty."
I don't remember that at all.
Oh my God.
So that would have stumped you. Dang it.
Yeah.
That was such a Midwest terrible commercial. But okay, we'll move on to the second one. This one could be a little bit more tricky. Okay. So, and we give a little bit more clues because it is a little bit trickier. This beverage mascot is an animated red circle with limbs, a mouth, sunglasses, and white sneakers.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yes. This beverage mascot is an animated red circle with limbs, a mouth, sunglasses, and white sneakers.
Beverage. All right. How many questions do I get?
3.
3.
Is it, what beverage category is it in? Oh no, it has to be yes or no, right? Is it the soft drink category?
It is. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. A red circle with limbs and sunglasses?
Yep.
Does this mascot have a hat?
No.
I guess you would have told me that. That was a terrible question.
I mean, in fairness,
This one is hard.
in fairness, this mascot could possibly have worn a hat at some point, but in the most classic version, no.
Okay. Can you repeat it one more time?
This beverage mascot is an animated red circle with limbs, a mouth, sunglasses, and white sneakers. And I'll add one other clue. He also inspired a Sega Genesis video game.
Oh my God. It's like right here. I'm so close.
In the 90s, the beverage that this mascot represented was the pinnacle of coolness.
Yeah. Is this beverage lemon lime flavored?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yes.
You're narrowing it way down. You're close.
Is it 7-Up?
It is.
All right.
Yes. It is. And
That's
that's
amazing.
great, Mike.
Well, so I had a little bit of an advantage. You're talking to the youngest of 6 children that grew up in the 80s and 90s, so, like, all I did was watch TV. Like, all I did.
Yeah, you knew it was in there. You had to pull
Yeah.
it deep out of the arsenal.
I've saw every commercial you could possibly imagine.
So the name of the 7-Eleven mascot was the Cool Spot.
Ah, the cool Wait, 7-Eleven or 7-Up?
I'm sorry, 7-Up.
Okay,
What did I
okay.
say? 7-Eleven?
The
7-Up.
cool spot, I remember that now, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have gotten that. I'm impressed.
The Sega Genesis clue really kinda helped me out. Played a lot of video
Nice.
games as a child.
I don't remember the video game for some reason. I remember the mascot, but not the video game.
Yeah, I didn't own it, but I know, one of my childhood friends did. Definitely.
Oh, lucky dog.
I feel like that doesn't make a very cool video game character. Just a red
Yeah.
dot running around in sneakers.
Simple. Less is more.
Who am I to say?
That was fun.
And the last thing is, where do you want to tell our listeners to go find Joy? Do you want to drop some handles or URL for people?
Yeah. You can find us at our website, addjoy, addjoi.com, or on Instagram, the handle is @addjoy, and on Facebook, it is Made with Joy.
Great.
Love it.
Lovely. Well, you are such a delight. It was
Yay.
so fun to see your wonderful face again. I
You
know we text
too.
sometimes, but
Yeah.
it was good to catch up.
Yeah, you too. Great to see you, girls, ladies, women. Great to see you.
All the above.
Great
All
to
above.
see you.
Queen.
Great to see us in our closets. That's where in our natural habitat. Okay, thanks, Mike.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya.
Have a good one.
To stay up to date with the Bad Girls of Branding, a nickname we gave ourselves, subscribe to the podcast everywhere you listen. And if you like what you're hearing, leave a 5-star review.
And follow us at Brandsplaining on Instagram and Facebook, and at Brandsplain on Twitter, or go to brandsplainingpod.com.
Brandsplaining is brought to you by the Obedient Podcast Network, with production support by Martini Hill, cover art illustration by Halela, and special projects by Orly Spire.
Other podcasts developed by the Obedient Podcast Network include Forward, bringing you the weirdest emails and mass messages from everyone's craziest relatives, and Fangasm, where we read erotic fan fiction about your favorite TV, movie, and book characters. Think Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, The Office, and Star Wars, to name a few.